Hello everybody, Bruce McGonigal here. How does Anthony Fauci fit into the universal ostrich farm situation where almost 400 ostriches are facing a cull order that is awaiting a Supreme Court decision? I'm going to explain. So please make sure that you share this video far and wide so people have an idea of what is actually going on. It's so important, folks. To start, we're going to go back to 2008, where gain-of-function research was being done on the H5N1 bird flu. Researchers had discovered that by taking gene sequences from two different strains and combining them into an H5N1 virus, they were able to tinker with what the virus could do. They could make the virus weaker, or with the gain of function, they could actually dramatically increase how much the virus could be transmitted between species like humans or animals and how lethal it was. So they could really ramp it up. Okay? Come 2012, Anthony Fauci was asked about gain of function research because everybody was kind of getting worried about it. And he defended the practice, saying that the research from gain of function far outweighed any risk potential to humanity. That it was very important for science, he claimed. Ironically, in 2012, while the United States government was funding gain-of-function research in the Netherlands, they had created a strain of H5N1 that was considered so lethal to humans that it could wipe out easily over 200 million people. And this terrified the U.S. government. They shut down the program. They classified all of the documents on the research. And what we now know is they had created an airborne version of the H5N1. Okay, so meaning it transmit like COVID-19 through the air, folks. Okay, so at that point, people should have started asking, why isn't Anthony Fauci fired? Clearly he got it wrong. Gain of function is not only terrible, it could actually lead to the extermination of society as we know it, whether it be through humans or be through wiping out our food sources. This is really important to remember, folks. So the gene sequences is one way of gain of function, okay? We're going to talk about the next one going forward. It's really important. By October of 2020, right as COVID-19 was creating panic across the world, the Netherlands, the same place where the gain-of-function research was initially done and shut down, had discovered a new strain of H5N1 known as the 2.3.4.4b strain, and it was airborne. It's very important to understand. That strain, while COVID-19 was still wrapping around the world, managed to make its way to the United States of America and was being studied in a lab in Georgia. By 2021, that lab had apparently accidentally, or sadly, maybe even intentionally, released a gain-of-function version of that virus. So what they had done is called serial progression. So what they do is they take the initial strain that they have, they put it into a mallard duck, and then when the mallard duck shows signs of mutation, they would take that mutated strain and stick it in another mallard duck. And they would work towards mutation on that as well, find any kind of differences in the virology of it, and then transpose that over to another duck. And they kept doing that basically to force mutations forward of the bird virus, the H5N1 virus. This created a strain that was super easily transmittable between wildlife, specifically ducks and birds in general. But what they found by 2022 was that the H5N1 virus was also able to infect dolphins, seafood, right? The dolphin that they discovered that had this virus had the largest viral load in its brain and was actually starting to suffer brain damage from the virus. I mean, if that doesn't terrify the hell out of you, I don't know what would. So when you think about this, this is a virus that wasn't just gain of function once. This is a virus that has potentially been gained of function repeatedly, first to make it airborne, then to make it more transmissible among animals, and then they did a mutation progression, which is a completely different type of gain of function in Georgia, inside the United States of America, which somehow got out of the lab at a time when everybody was apparently supposed to be hyper vigilant about viruses because of COVID-19. Remember who was in charge of everything during all of this? Was Anthony Fauci. And what we should know right now is that Anthony Fauci himself turned around and had said that no gain-of-function research was even being done in Wuhan, China, that was being funded by the US government. And we know now that was all a complete lie. So not only was gain-of-function happening on a bird flu, gain-of-function was happening on bat viruses. And if you remember, folks, they were telling us initially in the Wuhan virus situation that it came from bat soup. And then it was, racist to say it was bat soup. And it actually transferred from a bat in a wet market to a pangolin. And from the pangolin, it transferred over to humans and then started to rapidly spread among humans from there. Which a lot of people are going, wait, that's almost next to impossible, that scenario. But Anthony Fauci assured all of us, no, this came from nature. So while Anthony Fauci's telling us all of this, they're actually working on gain of function on a bird virus that not only, once it's released, is infecting birds and causing the cull of birds across America, we're not being properly told about any of it. We're being lied to right across the board. By 2024, dairy cattle are being infected with H5N1, folks. Now, thankfully, the dairy cattle don't appear to be very lethal with this virus. They seem to be able to survive, but for profitability reasons, apparently it dramatically affects their milk production. Now, by 2025, we are told ostriches that over 250 days ago were infected with H5N1, likely by wild birds, whether they're ducks or geese or anything else like that, that those poor birds, even though they appear healthy and nobody wants to test them, have to die because they contain the H5N1 virus that seems to have mutated from the Georgia lab. Folks, how insane is it that here in British Columbia, we have birds being slaughtered in massive numbers, whether they're chickens, turkeys, or now potentially ostriches, because of a gain-of-function virus that was first built over in the Netherlands and then tinkered with even more using a completely different gain-of-function technique down in Georgia, made its way to British Columbia, and is being used as the excuse to bankrupt farmers and to destroy our food supply. Why is none of our politicians talking about this? Why is it always the onus for lab-generated viruses that fall directly on farmers or individuals like we all had to go through with COVID-19? It seems to be a real pattern here that viruses coming out of biolabs have no accountability to the people who are doing this gain of function, but are allowed to ruin not only our freedoms, but our food supply. In British Columbia, despite only having under 10% of Canada's landmass and only 13% of Canada's population, we have watched over 60% of all of the birds culled in Canada being culled right here in BC. We only have Washington State below us, and we've got the Pacific Ocean to the west of us, and we've got Alberta to the east of us. Ontario is a way bigger province. They've got 3 times as many people as British Columbia. They've got colossal wetlands everywhere, and yet they only have a tiny fraction of the birds being slaughtered because of H5N1 that BC does. As I pointed out a couple of days ago, the United States of America just had over 1 billion birds migrate from Canada and northern USA down to the south, retreating from the cooler temperatures as winter approaches. So many of those birds, potentially hundreds of millions of those birds, are infected with H5N1, and they're spreading it right across the United States of America. So the question is, why on earth is British Columbia so responsible for slaughtering off our food when the rest of North America seems to get a big different pass on what's going on? I'm not saying they're not culling birds in America, and I'm not saying they're not culling birds across the rest of Canada. I'm saying disproportionately in British Columbia, we are being asked to slaughter off our livestock in huge numbers in ways that make zero sense at all, especially with these ostriches that have survived for over 250 days, show no signs of being sick whatsoever. Well, remember when I told you that the gain of function was being done in 2012 in the Netherlands, and they discovered that super lethal strain of H5N1? By 2013, GlaxoSmithKline in Quebec was developing a human vaccine for H5N1, even though not a single person in Canadian history up to that point had been infected with H5N1. And to this day, not a single Canadian has died from H5N1 in Canada. Only one person has been recorded as having this virus, and it was non-lethal. Meanwhile, Mark Carney, in February or March of 2025, purchased 500,000 doses of H5N1 vaccines from GlaxoSmithKline for human use. So this begs the question, folks. Are they planning an H5N1 outbreak here in Canada? And if they do find an H5N1 outbreak in Canada, do they want to lock down an entire region of the province, whether it be in BC or Ontario or maybe out in New Brunswick, and mandate the H5N1 vaccines that Mark Carney purchased for your ability to leave the zone that you're in? We could find ourselves incredibly quickly, folks, right back in a situation like we had with COVID-19, where people are not allowed to travel. They're not even allowed to travel around Canada if the government and the World Health Organization say that we could be a threat to the rest of the world. It's getting that scary now, folks. Like I said with Anthony Fauci, why isn't he arrested? Why is it okay for Anthony Fauci to not only lie to everybody, but to repeatedly be linked to viruses that not only kill humans, but kill massive numbers of livestock and potentially affect marine mammals and almost all of our food supply? No president of the United States of America should be able to pardon anybody from facing accountability outside the United States of America. Joe Biden, sure, maybe he should be able to pardon Anthony Fauci in America, but Anthony Fauci should still be able to be charged with crimes for his gain-of-function research and for all the lies that he spread in places like Canada, the UK, India, South America, South Africa, right? Anywhere that people were impacted by his decisions and his lies based on his status as somebody who was supposed to be a trusted healthcare provider, professional, an expert, if you will. He should be held accountable like any other doctor, like any other pharmaceutical product or company. There is no way that Anthony Fauci or any of these other people who repeatedly kept tinkering with virus after virus that had already had gain of function done on it should be allowed to get away with it. There's no reason that British Columbians should take it on the chin every single time that these companies or these research institutes or these experts decide they want to play God with viruses. It's absolutely sickening, folks, that this has happened. We know in 2024, this H5N1 has been infecting dairy cows, and now they have that very link that they were talking about that they couldn't find in the Wuhan wet market, where it goes from bird to mammal to humans. And it's all that, the whole progression, the whole thing with H5N1 is human engineered, human tinkered with. And this is what we really need to ask each other. How many more viruses are they doing this to? How many strains of H5N1 are sitting right now in a laboratory or sitting almost frozen at absolute zero and being withheld so that it could be released on humanity later? These are bioweapons. This is Nuremberg level kind of stuff. And yet in Canada here, our MSM that keeps talking about how important it is to kill off these ostriches refuses to talk about where this virus came from and who is responsible for repeatedly releasing it on the world. Remember, folks, it wasn't just the Georgia lab that released it. It was first released out of the Netherlands, made its way to America, and then was released again upon all of our wildlife. It's affecting our food prices. It's creating poverty among the people who can least afford it, right? Seniors, pensioners, people with disability, people who cannot keep up to rapid inflation are the ones taking it on the chin the most, and our farmers. It's time to demand accountability. It's time to demand justice, folks. Please, make sure you share this video. It's so important. All of you can make a difference by speaking up on this. I can't stress that enough. Silence is how all of these people win. This is why Mark Carney wants censorship. This is why they want the ability to take people off the line, off the internet like that on a whim, because they do not want us discussing how these viruses are more and more likely to be released from a lab as opposed to be from nature. They're intentionally doing it, folks. They intentionally want to control our lives. They want vaccine passports, they want digital ID, and they want digital currency. And if there's one thing that we learned during the Freedom Convoy, is that our government wants to be able to go like that and lock down your bank accounts and lock down your ability to travel with the push of a button. Take care, everybody. Have a great one.